Like I do every morning, I was checking Reddit to see who turned 18 today. As I was doing this, I came across two posts on the front page, each with the same piece of news. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet are now the lowest rated mainline Pokémon games on Metacritic. And sure enough, both of the new games are sitting at the bottom of Metacritic, not just in critic scores, but user scores as well. At the time of the Reddit post, Violet had dropped to a 72, putting it just behind Scarlet, Brilliant Diamond, and Shining Pearl. Over on the user side of things, Scarlet was at a 30 while Violet was at a 35. The previous worst are Sword and Shield at 47 apiece. This means that in the last 13 months, we've had two Pokemon games set a new record for the worst mainline games in the series. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl did it in November 2021, and it only took a year for Scarlet and Violet to hit that new low. And in 2022 alone, we had Legends Arceus, which appeared to rejuvenate the franchise, only for Scarlet and Violet to kick the series right in the Pokeballs. In terms of critic scores, The Gamer is the only outlet to give Scarlet and Violet a negative review, saying, "Unfortunately, the performance is so abruptly bad that it completely ruins, to an infuriating extent, what otherwise could have been the best Pokemon game to date." In all, there's 48 positive reviews, 45 mixed reviews, and 1 negative review from critics. But who cares about critics? What I care about is the people. At the time of recording, Scarlet has 1,900 negative reviews, 600 positive reviews, and 190 mixed reviews. When this story gained a lot of traction, it began a battle for the ages between people who loved the games and people who hated the games. In the end, light prevailed. Scarlet has risen from a lowly 30 to a high of 31, while Violet has risen from just an abysmal 35 to a massive 37. This now puts the latest entries in the Pokemon franchise alongside other Switch classics like Vroom in the Night Sky and FIFA 19. As you'd expect, every review from a Metacritic user is written in a manner that would make the greatest minds of our generation jealous. Stephen Hawking has nothing on 6500, who so eloquently wrote, "Advantage, fun to explore, auto battle is god function, BGM feels good, disadvantage, graphics are subtle, poor processing is noticeable." Or how about Smash Genesis, who is a master of the English language and said, "Game good, performance bad." Like, really bad. Seriously, it's my only problem with this otherwise amazing game. I will admit that I haven't played Scarlet or Violet yet. I was burned by Brilliant Diamond last year, and I've already spent 40 hours in a Pokemon game this year with Legends Arceus. So when I read this review from Nimble, I didn't know that Nimble was actually a Pokemon, instead thought it was an adult apparatus. Still, I wish I didn't have eyes when I read this. And now you'll wish you didn't have ears when I say, have you ever wondered what it would be like to shove a Nimble down there and lay back in repose as she bucks her way out? Well, after playing this game, I have. And that's why this game is a perfect 10. It's a Nimble bucking good game. While that Nimble review is marked as one of the most helpful on Metacritic, this one from NalonCon helped 56 people. They said, "Completely unplayable disaster. Every Pokemon evolves from Bidoof for some reason, and the gym leader in the second town steals your social security number. 10 out of 10. Then you have these people who tried to stoke the flames of ire by saying future updates would fix the performance issues in Scarlet and Violet, even though that was nothing more than hope at the time. Thankfully, Nintendo did address the issues on November 30th by saying, "We are aware that players may encounter issues that affect the game's performance. Our goal is always to give players a positive experience with our games, and we apologize for the inconvenience. We take the feedback from players seriously and are working on improvements to the games. It's nice that they're taking feedback into consideration, but 'we apologize for the inconvenience' part really bothers me. They aren't actually sorry, they're just sorry they got caught. When they were doing their final pass-through of Scarlet and Violet in late September, early October, before shipping the games off to get printed, they knew it didn't run well. They just hoped it wouldn't affect nearly as many people as it did, or at the very least, that people wouldn't be this vocally negative. Well, like my cat who attempted to catch a fish from my aquarium, they thought wrong." Polished Relish gives a surprisingly nuanced take, finishing their review by saying, "It's a shame delaying Pokemon games really isn't an option due to merch. That is 100% correct. Pokemon is on a timer. They have to release new games every few years to keep the milk flowing from this cash cow. If Scarlet and Violet were delayed, that would throw the entire trading card game schedule into disarray. And even worse, it might cause the Pokemon Company to only have $200 million in profits this year as opposed to $300 million. And we absolutely could not have that. But you know what we can have? Pokemon getting hurt. Diamond Eevee thinks the game is too candy, and they want to see their Pokepals suffer. Jeff the Killer, meanwhile, doesn't understand how other people could hate a game where you can train little creatures to kill things. I think Jeff the Killer should be put on a list. Pepsi Where's My Jet then gives an interesting review saying the games cost $300, are nice but not perfect, and are also okay, and also they like it. As I made my way through the user reviews, I found a host of people giving it a 10 out of 10, not because they thought it was perfect, but because they wanted to offset all of the zeros. Caranther30, for example, only thinks Violet is an 8, but because they don't think it's worse than a 3, they gave it a 10. It's almost like reality is whatever Metacritic users want it to be. Unsurprisingly, a lot of the reviews pointed towards the graphics. 360 Barrier, however, I think gave Scarlet and Violet a compliment by saying, "Graphics are like Welcome to 5 years ago." Considering that Breath of the Wild came out 5 years ago, that's pretty high praise for somebody giving it a 0. Something else I found is that people can't seem to agree exactly how bad the graphics are. 360 Barrier thinks it's Breath of the Wild, while FF Media thinks the landscapes are from the N64 GameCube era, and performance is like trying to run a 2022 PC game on a 1998 computer. And then you have Black Belt 2018, who called it an N64 game but still gave it a 10 to balance the negativity. So Black Belt basically covered all the bases when it comes to a Metacritic review for Scarlet and Violet. Continuing the theme of mentioning other systems, B387PP1 said, "There are PS3 games that look better than this." I don't think that's the scathing remark they think it is. I mean, God of War 3 and The Last of Us were on PS3. Those look better than a lot of Switch games. For good measure, Salt90 says it looks like a 2002 video game. For comparison's sake, this is what a video game in 2002 looked like. Metboy, meanwhile, is upset that you can't remove the shirt and pants from the lead characters in the game who are probably 10 years old and gave Violet a 0 as a result. Yeah, I think this is another person that should be on a list. As for Nero How, they pondered if Game Freak is using their feet to develop games. Like Silent, I'm something of a feet connoisseur myself, so I can attest to the fact that feet are just as capable of performing the same tasks you would do with your hands. So I see that not as an insult, but as a way of getting me to think about feet. And for whatever reason, that always puts me in a good mood. I give Nero How's review a 10 out of 10. And for the last Pokemon Violet review, we have Jan346, who didn't realize Metacritic grades on a 10-point scale and gave it a 4 when they actually meant a 4 out of 5. So if you want to blame anyone for Violet having such a low user score, it's all Jan346's fault. Moving to Pokemon Scarlet, I love Pokemon Scarlet, who may or may not be biased, said, "I've never played a game this bleeping good. This makes Soul Silver look like bleep. This has to be the greatest game ever next to Over the Hedge on the PS2. And probably my favorite part about that review is 76 people found it helpful. Who Drew, another cunning linguist, said, "I think it's fun, but holy crap, it's buggy. Also, that's all I just needed it to be 75 characters long." Again, 72 people found this review helpful. Now, here's where I was going to take some time to talk about how Nintendo didn't bribe anybody to release Scarlet and Violet. But Birdo says no one can tell them Nintendo didn't bribe somebody to legally release the game, so unfortunately I can't talk about it anymore. Keeping with the theme of legality, Shin777 thinks it should be illegal to release a game under 60 frames per second, and also, nobody has liked open world games since 2020. Then we have Murter, who calls Scarlet and Violet a laxative of good taste, sandpaper to the eye, and a purgative of good taste. I'm thinking they used the thesaurus for their review because a purgative is just a powerful laxative. And I looked up invective. It means insulting, abusive, or highly critical language. So they think it should win an award for that. I won't try to pronounce this user's name, but they call Scarlet and Violet a 2007 McDonald's DVD game. I looked it up and couldn't find anything, so I think they meant a Burger King Xbox 360 game, but the point still stands. Magical Girl Momo thinks Scarlet runs like Butthole. And if you've ever seen a Butthole run, they're actually very accurate. Additionally, I think they're one of the only people to say it plays like a DS game instead of an N64 game, so kudos for the originality. Govos Uson clearly just watched Borat because they said, "Best games ever. Not. It's buggy, laggy AF, performance sucks too, yeah, so great game, but hey, I like 50% of the new Pokemon dies. Not the starters though, they look horrible." We are then graced by royalty. Sir Ligma from the Country of Balls said, "Hooly dooly, the performance is shocking." And then they talked about how Game Freak needed to milk the cash cow again. In case you didn't know, my sub notification on Twitch is Professor Oak milking a Miltank so hard it blasts him in the face. One can only dream. Even though Metacritic operates on a 0 to 10 scale, Quality Games 12 would give it a minus 100,000 I, which I think is a TV resolution. Technical, who has a very fun username, says, "Why? It's almost disrespectful at this point. It's as if a fever dream was a nightmare. Please release me from this pain. It's like being brutally stabbed in the eyes, except it's 5 FPS and you can feel all 5. Real life looked better than this, and I'm not even joking this time. Trying doesn't even describe this hideous game. If this is trying, I've been lied to 0 out of 10. I mean, if real life doesn't look better than a video game, you should probably go see a proctologist. And when you're done having fun there, go see an optometrist to get your eyes checked. Do you want to know how bad Scarlet and Violet are? According to Super Carazotto, it made their dog cry. Well, I looked it up on the internet and it says dogs can't cry, so I'm calling them a liar. Okay, for HD Trauma's review, I put commas in for them, and apparently Scarlet and Violet features enough dialogue that you can press the A button 63,739,293,737 times. If that's the case, no wonder the performance is so bad. It'd be the most text in any video game ever. I don't know if a coughing blasted some foul gas into Surf Diggins' face this morning or something, but they called out both Pokémon Scarlet and Metacritic in the same sentence. They are clearly operating on a higher plane than the rest of us. So I know I talked about people mentioning other systems earlier, and while Gino does mention the PS2, you have to dissect this review further. Let's boil it down. They say, this game sucks. This game would have been nice if it was for a PS2. There's nothing good about it, only a few Pokemon are nice. They say the game sucks, but it would have been nice on PS2. And there's also nothing good about it, but a few Pokemon are nice. I honestly have no idea what they thought of the game. If it would have been nice on PS2, how can it suck? And if there's nothing good about it, how can a few Pokemon be nice? My brain hurts just trying to make heads or butts of this review. In the penultimate review I found, Guy631 says Scarlet looks like a GameCube game released in 1998. That would actually be pretty cool because the GameCube didn't come out until 2001. You know what that means, Guy? You've just been thrusted. And finally, I saved Not a Larry for last. They said, Game Freak as always makes the most graphically intense games. Why though? Don't they realize that the graphics are not important at all? Graphics are useless. I will spend another $120 on both 10-gen Pokemon games if they will get rid of the graphics. My PS2 lags while trying to play Scarlet. Overall, the gameplay is absolutely the best. I'm blind, so I don't care what these silly haters say. 5 out of 8 people found this review helpful, by the way. And that'll do it. I think the butt crack is if you think you can deal with the technical issues, get Scarlet and Violet now. Because even a lot of the negative reviews admit there's a great underlying game. If you can't or don't want to deal with rough performance, wait a few months and see if they make any improvements.